Let's bring in Louise Haigh, Shadow Transport Secretary. Always good to see you, Ms Haigh. Thank you for taking the time. I know that you want to talk about a plan that you've got for drivers. You think that people are paying too much insurance and you want to do something about that. What are you suggesting?
Well, we're setting out our plan for drivers today across a range of areas. Firstly, tackling our crumbling local roads. Drivers had to pay out £500 million last year thanks to repairs caused by potholes. And that's because the Tories have underinvested in our local roads. So we have announced the deferral of a particular capital road project, which will release enough money to repair and prevent up to 1 million potholes per year across England, tackling the cost of living for drivers, and vastly improving the driver's experience.
Hold that there.
Insurance.
Let's pick them one at a time. That's the A27 bypass, and you think you're going to save something like £320 million as far as that's concerned. How can you be sure that that money will definitely go to those cash-strapped councils and they will definitely use it for potholes?
So we will apply that to local authorities. We will apply that for multi-year funding settlements to local authorities for both potholes and road maintenance, because we know how frustrating it is for people to see their local council or a subcontractor come along and fill in a pothole, and then 3 or 4 months later have to come in and do it again. We want to make sure that they have the budget and the money to resurface roads properly, so that it gives better value for money and it extends the life expectancy and the quality of the road. But we will require local authorities to be fully transparent about where that money has gone.
If you're saying that the A27 bypass, that £320 million, you're going to send it to these cash-strapped councils who can't afford to do so many things, and you can absolutely guarantee that all of that money will go to fix potholes.
So, as I say, we are providing those in those multi-year settlements to give them the budget over 4 or 5 years so that they can invest in prevention, and we're going to ask them to be transparent about where the funding has gone. Local roads are one of the biggest issues that people raise concerns about. It's a massive cost of living issue for drivers, and it's pushing everyone's car insurance premiums up. So that's why we are investing that to local authorities, but we will require them to be transparent about it. And over time, it will bring down the cost of those repairs and maintenance.
Yes. Lots to get through. You say that car insurance is going up because of that. My understanding, because I checked with my broker, car insurance is going up because of stolen vehicles. What can the regulator do about that?
Yes, so there's several reasons why car insurance has soared to an average of £200 over the last 2 years. Partly the state of the roads, partly massive rise in car thefts, partly rises in inflation, all of which you can attribute to the Tories in power. But car insurance has risen far faster in this country than it has in our European counterparts.
What have the Tories got to do with stolen vehicles?
We want to bring in... Because they've cut the police. We've still got far fewer police in most police forces than we did in 2010. And so a lot of car thefts have been, frankly, deprioritised by local police forces. And a lot of criminals know that is essentially a crime that's not going to be properly investigated. So we know that car insurance has risen far faster in the UK.
Sorry, I know we're down the line and we've got lots to chat
neighbours.
about, so work with me on this. Just work with me on this. You said you're calling in the regulators to crack down on the causes of soaring costs. I've illustrated to you, and you agree that a major one of those is stolen vehicles. What can the regulator do about that?
So, car insurance has risen far faster here than our European counterparts, so that's why we want to bring in the CMA to investigate the causes of those rises. We don't think that that can be solely attributed to the factors that we've laid out, that car insurers in Britain are far inflating the costs of insuring onto their customers, and that's why we've said we'll bring in the regulators to investigate that and to see whether we are being ripped off in this country.
OK, you previously promised to renationalise nearly all passenger rail services within 5 years if you win the election. Does that mean that we can expect to see that in the manifesto?
The manifesto will be published tomorrow, but I think you could be confident in expecting that.
Let's take Avanti West Coast as an example. If you win the election and you become the Transport Secretary, then you could terminate their contract at any point with 3 months' notice from October of 2026. I'm guessing you'll be doing that.
Yes, our commitment is to bring in those contracts as they expire or when they are breached, and I anticipate I will be seeking advice early on whether Avanti has been in breach of its contract, given the woeful service it's been providing to passengers down the West Coast main line.
So you're warning Avanti West Coast this morning that if you win the next election after October 2026, that line will be back in public ownership?
No ifs, no buts. October 2026 will be the last date Avanti will have notice of that contract coming to expire, but I will ask for early advice about whether they have already breached their contract and whether it can be brought in any earlier.
OK, well, that's them told. Why would Sir Keir Starmer call it a Jeremy Corbyn-style manifesto, taking the mickey out of the Conservative manifesto, given that he served in 2 of Jeremy Corbyn's shadow cabinets?
What Keir was saying yesterday was that the Conservatives clearly haven't learned their lessons from less than 2 years ago when Liz Truss went forward with her disastrous mini-budget, which crashed the economy, and people are still paying the price through increases on their mortgages. We've learnt the lessons from our 2019 general election manifesto, which was roundly rejected by the public and led us to our worst election defeat in our history. And that's why Keir Starmer has changed the Labour Party from top to bottom, and we're putting forward a manifesto that will be published tomorrow, where every single pledge will be funded and costed, but will still deliver credible and radical change in people's lives. The Tories' manifesto yesterday added up to £71 billion of unfunded spending commitments, which would have catastrophic consequences for people's mortgages and working people across this country. And we're still living with the after effects of that just less than 2 years ago.
But he backed Jeremy Corbyn's manifestos twice. Did he not know what he was backing back then?
Well, as I say, we've learnt the lessons from then. You know, that was the Labour election campaign in 2019. It was roundly rejected. As a result, Keir has listened to the country, reflected on where we went wrong and responded to voters' concerns. And we make no apologies for that. And that's why a changed Labour Party is putting forward a credible, funded and costed manifesto that will be published tomorrow.
Conservatives are planning to double the tax threshold for child benefits to £120,000 per household. Will you match that pledge?
No. They've made multiple unfunded spending commitments, including cutting national insurance by 2p that will cost £40 billion over the next Parliament, abolishing the self-employed rate, costing several billion more, and they've not set out credibly where that will be funded from. It is an absolute plank of our manifesto that will be published tomorrow that every single spending commitment we make will be costed and will be funded, whereas the Conservatives have potentially put £4,800 on every average person's mortgage as a result of their unfunded spending commitments, and we will not go forward with a manifesto like that. People don't believe it, and we shouldn't ask people to vote for it.
So you won't do this? So you won't do this?
No.
OK. Why should hard-strapped parents vote for you if they think the Conservatives will do that for them?
Because we are putting out a series of cost of living measures that will actually make an impact in people's lives. People cannot trust a party that continually makes unfunded spending commitments and not being clear where that money is coming from. We saw that happen less than 2 years ago when Liz Truss attempted to make tax cuts for the richest people in this country, and as a result interest rates were raised and people are still paying the price for that on their mortgage increases. We will set out tomorrow a whole range of policies that will make a difference for hard-pressed families across this country. And let's not forget, the reason that they're hard-pressed is a series of disastrous decisions that this government have taken over 14 years, which has seen the biggest collapse in living standards since the Napoleonic era.
OK, just to clarify then, do you think that people will vote more because they're worried about potholes rather than putting food in their kids' bellies?
Well, we will set out a number of areas that will tackle the cost of living crisis to make sure that working families and people do have money, that they can pay the bills at the end of the week, that they can afford their mortgage. We've set out plans to allow people to get onto the housing ladder, to bring down the cost of car insurance, which is one of the biggest factors in inflation. And yeah, we make no apologies that we're taking action to tackle the state of our local roads, because that is a cost of living issue for everyone's car insurance, or for the driver that has to suffer the cost of repairs themselves and pay the excess. So we are taking action that reflects the priorities of this country, but every aspect of our manifesto will be funded and it will be costed, and we make absolutely no apologies for that.
OK, I apologise for talking over you. You know what it's like when we're down the line. I look forward to seeing you in our studio very soon. Thank you.